Hello, welcome everybody to the WRSTCollabs podcast. I'm here with Ashley, as well as remotely we have Brendan, and then we have Blake and Meg, who are part of the Fugly Aliens NFT drop. So welcome everybody. I'm your host Alex, and we're just going to kind of get right into it. So Blake and Meg, I think I'd love to hear from each of you, just to hear first like a little bit of your background of like how you came to understand what NFTs are. And that will kind of like lead us into like, then we'll talk a little bit about like how you found us and how we talked about this whole project and brought it to life. But like first, let's get some background on both of you. And let's go with Meg first, if that's cool.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. So I am a street artist. I actually quit out of the corporate world as a tech recruiter and into the world. And probably about, 3 years ago, I had all of my tech friends reaching out to me and they're like, Meg, have you done NFTs yet? Blockchain, blah, 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 blah. And just like this whole fluff. And I instantly fell in love with the idea and just the tech behind it, obviously. But I didn't really want it to be just a JPEG or a photo of something that I, had already had in the streets. And so I just wasn't ready to dive in yet. I really wanted it to be something super special. And so, let's fast forward, 3 years later, I'm like, now I have this super special project. It made sense to be on the blockchain.
Excellent. And then Blake, how about you?
Yeah. Also, corporate world turned artist. Fun fact, Meg and I knew each other from our previous life where we both were in Los Angeles in kind of the tech and digital marketing scene. In terms of my art, I've been focused on painting portraits of athletes for quite some time. And I learned about NFTs while I was interviewing an athlete named Micah John, who created the Aku character and world. And that was in 2020 that he introduced me to the idea of NFTs. And I started selling some one-of-ones on Super Rare, kind of just tapping into my existing archive of artwork. And I've been enjoying learning these and continuing launching projects and working in different capacities on different projects over the last 2 years. And yeah, just stoked to be here, working on the Fugly. In terms of how I met the WRST crew, working on a project with Des Bryant and Matt and Deanna were on the tech for the execution of that. And so we met through that project and have since remained friends. Been excited to work on something together. So I'm stoked to see this come to life.
Excellent. So I'm kind of curious about a little bit of both the art direction of how the Fuglies came to life and then that kind of like justification of like why NFTs, because I think that that's something that people have still as a fundamental question of like, some people take it for granted and they're like, oh, well, it's a way to like, have a value flow inside of an art project. But like, I think there's always like an explicit kind of thought about whether or not an art project should be NFTs or not, right? Because you could have just as easily done the Fuglies on like pieces of plywood and cut them up and like, ship them out to folks. So why, first why Fuglies and then why NFTs, if you could. And this can go either direction between either of you, because I think you're both going to have unique insights on this.
I think really
what it was, the starting of it, both Blake and I's preferred medium right now is spray paint. And I think that spray paint is the last hand to surface medium. And there's something really cool about bridging that gap to be able to put that in in Web3, in NFTs. And so, the fact of jumping in and doing hand painted originals, what does that mean? Because there's a lot of people out there that are saying this digital hand painted. Yeah, but I think it was really important for us to sort of like archive that the jump, historically.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like, even though I've been working in NFTs on a bunch of projects over a couple years, I still much prefer like making analog creations myself. So I really, loved making the physical paintings. I also think that, like, in terms of the why NFT question, I don't even know where I would start if I wanted to try and go sell 2,000 original paintings in like 3 hours. Even like at the most crowded art fair with the perfect amount of buyers lined up, like credit cards out, ready to swipe. Like, I don't even know if I could process, dealing with that many customers that quickly. So NFTs allowed us to like get our art out into the world in like a really efficient way, to a lot of collectors, some of which didn't have any of Meg or my artworks previously. And so that's fun, onboarding new collectors into our ecosystem, as well as, some people, it was their first NFT. And so onboarding more people into the NFT space, I think, is also a fun part of it.
Awesome. I think that we opened up a lot of threads there about not only your backgrounds as artists, but Meg, I think you had a really interesting point there about like how spray paint is like the fastest medium to go kind of like from hand to canvas, or hand to whole project. I'd love to flip the mic over to Ashley, who's our in-house art expert, built our web tree and built out so much of our gallery. I'd take it from here. I'd love to hear where you want to take this next.
Oh, expert, thanks. Not even close, but but no, I think you have a very good point about spray paint. I suck at it, so I will never do that. But I would love to kind of hear like where you went from like y'all's previous projects that you did to like, okay, let's do these cute little aliens in like all different colors and patterns and everything. So where did that come from?
Yeah, I mean, that stemmed from just a night of like, I think we were just kind of hanging out and just, we just started creating a funny narrative, a story of being abducted by aliens. And what does that really mean? And how do they interact with us? Do they love us? Do they hate us? They think that we're just a waste of, energy. But really, we're like, no, our belief system is that they would come in and they would just adore us. They think that we're awesome, especially being artists. Mm-hmm. And so we really created this story around, just that. And so it was fairly easy. Then we hit the studio. We're like, okay, well, like, let's just try this on for size. And it just skyrocketed. We were painting literally on everything. We were picking colors and we were just going back and forth and like vibing and, you do one, I'll do one. Oh, here, we'll do each other. Like we'll swap. And so, yeah, it was just this whole, it came really easily.
Yeah. I think it's also kind of important, was important in the development of it, is we were coming it was right off the back of VCon. And it was like 1 or 2 days after we'd gotten back. And VCon was, in my opinion, the best conference I've been to, whether it's tech or marketing or Web3 or anything. It was really well put together and great people. And Meg and I met like so many different creatives. We were lucky we had like speaker wristbands. So we were down in the speaker lounge most of the time and getting to network with creators that were building and pushing the boundaries of Web3. And so I think that definitely like inspired us when we came back. We knew we wanted to put a project together that was like kind of new and novel and unique. And at the time, both of us were and are kind of in the middle of like other projects, that like solo projects that we were working on, but for one reason or another, we just hadn't like pushed forward in getting those on the blockchain to mint. And so I think that like taking a step back and having like a fresh motivation coming off of VCon and wanting to like execute like a fresh new idea that hadn't been done before. So like Meg said, like we hit the studio and the ideas just started flowing and it kind of evolved pretty quickly into close to its final form of being, a video series and this whole kind of story and like alternate universe that we invented and used as a mechanism to launch the project.
Yeah, I loved y'all's whole series. I watched it. I totally believed it. I was like, oh my God, they're gone. Like, where are they? But I think something really cool about y'all's project that I noticed is just like there's lots of different projects out there that have like tons of parts and pieces, and so many of them. You'll look at somebody else's that has one from the collection and you'll see so many similarities still. And I think like with y'all's, every single one truly was like very, very different. Like there were shapes that might be similar, but as far as like using the spray paint, it really differentiated all of them a lot, which I think was super cool. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was fun. And in terms of like the different character kind of families, when we started out, we just had, I don't know, like 5 or 6, and we used those like a lot, and we put them on everything. And so there's a couple fugly families that are more, well, technically more common, even though everything's a 1 of 1, and there's no rarity or properties or anything. But when the idea kind of really started to get momentum, we started thinking about like the collection size that we wanted to end up with, kind of aiming for 1,500 to 2,500. It just made sense to keep adding like more varieties in terms of like the families and body shapes. So we ended up with 48 of them, 47 of which got used in the first collection. 1 of them still hasn't been debuted yet.
Correction,
Right.
57.
I said 47. Yeah, 57 got used. 58. There's a 58 that exists.
And that is funny too, how that story happened. We were just jamming, basically sleeping at the studio, painting, eyes open, eyes shut. I mean, at one point I was just at the back table and I fell asleep. I was like, okay. But yeah, and so it was funny about, having all 57. We're like, no, we jammed it. And then it was like, wait a second, who's this guy? Wait, how did he slip through the cracks? Why don't we have this 58 painted in this collection? And so that's going to be a really fun new narrative to launch.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So there was one thing that I was kind of hearing in there talking about the series is this is a whole different aspect about the project, which is performance art. That's a thread I want to pick up later, but first I want to go back to like what Blake was talking about with regards to like, the technology and how would you even be able to process 2,000 transactions in such a short period of time, right? And I think this would be a great time to lean on Brendan as well. So I think that what I'd like to talk about just a little bit is, when an NFT project is out there picking a blockchain to work with, obviously one thing that matters is like the number of transactions they can actually process, and every single one of them is different. You all went with Ethereum and kept it on mainnet, despite the fact that, there's so many problems with like gas wars and whatnot that everybody, kind of gets stressful about. Like Yuga Labs, they had their other side sale and that, just had like crazy expensive gas. I'm really curious about the technical decision to choose Ethereum mainnet, and I'd love to hear about it both from Blake and Meg's point of view, but then also from Brendan's point of view. Why is it that we're still building on Ethereum mainnet?
Yeah, I'm done jumping on that. So I think the primary reason that drove me at least like interested in launching this project on Ethereum is that's just where I'd been operating over the last couple of years. So my network was there. I knew that my friends had Ethereum wallets versus other alternate chains, which I am very much curious and excited to like explore. Solana, for example, I think is a really interesting one to look at, but I don't know how many of my friends have a Solana address. And so I wanted to put it in a place that would give us the best opportunity. In terms of the gas wars too, like I didn't, if Yuga was doing 100,000 lands, and obviously a bunch of them got airdropped to the holders of the apes and mutants, but like they were still selling. Like there were 50,000 transactions, 60,000 transactions that drove the gas up, with a collection size of just shy of 1,800. I wasn't too concerned about like 1,800 like if we had 1,800 people all trying to mint at the exact same time, yeah, it would have caused a gas problem, but that also would have been a new challenge that would be exciting to deal with. But yeah, gas was simple. And like also the way that we launched the minting app, or the minting website was through video number 5 of the series. So we like buried the content in that video where you really had to be paying attention if you were going to see it like immediately when it was available. And so also because of that, like it was never a concern to me that we were going to have too many people trying to mint and it would be a gas war, just because of the way we set up the experience, I guess, for people to find and execute the minting contract.
Yeah, ditto. I mean, that's basically we talked a lot about it, and that was basically what was sort of sound thinking was, getting this to the masses. And unfortunately, that's where it is right now, is OpenSea. But who knows, where we're gonna drop the 58th. Ooh, a little spoiler alert right there. Stay tuned on that one.
Yeah, totally. And from a technical perspective, I've launched NFT projects on Ethereum, Solana, and Tezos, and I've minted from Cardano, and maybe one or the other ones. But having that sort of broad exposure and has taught me a lot about the capability of different chains. And for all the hate that it gets, Ethereum is just like a workhorse. Like I launched my own sort of NFT project. It's more technical focused on Solana. The first mint went great. The second mint completely failed because Metaplex changed all of the transaction mediums and, the fees and stuff like that. So, I think Ethereum gets a lot of flack, some of it justified. But it's still just a great workhorse, and it's allows a lot of flexibility in terms of creating contracts and creating features and stuff like that. Which, if it's okay if I jump in with a question, I was curious, Blake and Meg, what kind of features would you be interested in for a future NFT project in terms of like technical capability? Is there anything that you noticed that you would really like, this feature, or the capability to update metadata or update images or stitch images together, or just that kind of thing?
I'll let you take that one, Blake. Yeah.
All right. That's a good question. I mean, I think if you mean like features that don't exist yet, I don't even know where to start, because I don't think that I've used every feature that does exist, in terms of mechanics. I saw a really cool project, I believe it was on Flow, called Flowvatars. Have you seen that one? Mm-hmm. So that one, Flowvatar, I think it's flowvatars.com or .app or .something. They have a really interesting minting experience where you buy these like credits, and then you spend the credits to buy different traits and attributes, and so you build your own character. And so it's still done kind of like the generative, where it's done with layers and you're picking your ones, and the rarer items cost more credits, and then at the end it like double checks that combination has not been minted, and if it has already been minted, it'll say you have to change something, and then you could go change the shoes or the background color or anything. So I think that's really interesting, and I'm not sure if that's possible on Ethereum, but that's something I would be super interested in exploring, whether that's, for a Fugly related project or otherwise. But other than that, I mean, I don't know. I think there's still just a lot that Meg and I are excited to explore with like token gated experiences, content, merchandise, that, the tech exists, right? And people have those tokens now. So now we just have to kind of implement the token gate and put whatever we want behind the gated wall. And that's something that we're really excited to kind of continue building on.
I'm going to throw the question back at you though, Brendan. Is there something excited that you're like wanting to do, but there's just like a certain project that you have in mind, or should we talk off line about that?
Yeah. A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I think there's something really interesting. I mean, I love physical art. I've lived in, I've lived in Philly for quite some time, and there's all kinds of beautiful murals all around that are both paint and spray paint. And the fact that you guys made this style in this way with this kind of scale is kind of amazing to me. Like, you guys really, I mean, kudos, because like it's really, really cool art. I've seen hundreds of NFT projects, and you know, and my avatar is now a fugly. So you know, yeah, there you go.
Have you been to T-Moms, Tattooed Moms in Philly?
Where's that?
Tattooed
Which
Moms.
part?
I think it's on like the main, it's like downtown. I'm not really sure, but you're going to love it. It's basically 2 stories. The second story is all devoted to art. And so street artists from all over the world have gone in there and painted. And I have definitely something on the ceiling. So large vending machine that
Really?
I literally wallpapered the ceiling or wheat pasted. And then there's a couple other things. I think there's something underneath one of the pool tables too.
That's awesome. I'm going to check that out. Like,
Moms is great.
Yeah, thanks for the heads up. Yeah. And I think you know, one of the really interesting things to me is the idea of creating like interactive web experiences, not necessarily like doing metaverse. Everybody does metaverse, and you know, there's a place for it for sure. But I think
but at the same time, almost nobody does metaverse because very, very little of it's like actually there right now.
Right, exactly. Because I mean, the ideas for big, huge metaverses are like awesome. Like, they're fundamentally like super cool, but I think the technology hasn't been totally demonstrated in a certain way that people have scaled in the masses to. But I'm curious about like web sort of integration. Like, there's HTML5, which means like, you know, you can create like interactive web experiences of like move your mouse over something and create art, you know, and mint your own art, create your own art online with drawers and essentially Adobe Illustrator online and that kind of thing. I'm curious if coming from like such a physical world, are there any like digital tools or websites or kind of like web experiences that you're sort of interested in to move a little bit more into the digital space?
Yeah, I'd say definitely. I think that there's a lot of allure to it, right? Because it becomes ownership. And that's, you know, that's what I'm most excited about. You know, I'm tired of feeding the cog of Instagram and not being rewarded for it and being manipulated around it. So yeah, I mean, really, what I've been saying is galaxy's the limit, which is what it feels like for Web3. You know, like if you dream it, you can basically create it, which is, I think, what I'm most excited about making this jump.
I also think we've been playing with like AI art. What is it? What is it called? AI art. What is that? What is that art generator called?
Night Cafe.
Like procedurally generated art. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like super fun. And like, who knows if, you know, I end up ever doing anything with what the computer spits out, but it's definitely like puts me in a cool creative headspace of like spitting out ideas that I wouldn't have thought of. And so even using digital tools like that for like inspiration that ends up manifesting in like analog work is also cool.
Well, and the cool thing about that too, as AI gets better, I imagine that sort of co-creating with our existing AI isn't going to look like that in 20 years, you know? And so having the first dibs on what those images look like, it's going to be hysterical.
You have to wonder if there's not something like a Rocco's Basilisk of the art community, though. I don't know how familiar you are with this idea. Like, Rocco's Basilisk is this AI that it's a philosophical problem, but it's this idea that there's an AI that exists in the future, and it pays attention to who helped to get it created. And if you didn't help to get it created, it would punish you. And this has caused people to have like legit mental breakdowns because this philosophical construct. On the flip side, there's this idea of Ether's Phoenix. And Ether's Phoenix is this idea that like it's the same kind of an AI, but rather than punish you, it's just going to only reward the people that help bring it into life. But you're talking about, Meg, you're talking about, wouldn't it be great to be this person who's like early in AI and like facilitating this collaborative art nature? You got to wonder if there's not like a Rocco's Basilisk or like a Ether's Phoenix out there in the future that's going to be paying attention to what art was created in this collaborative way, and then like giving benefits to those artists as the time goes on. It's really a fascinating construct.
Story brewing there.
Yeah, you got to wonder, maybe there's a story brewing there, right? If I could, I'd love for us to circle back on the project proper and talk about the mechanics of it, right? The timeline as I perceived it was there was consensus. Blake was in town. We were all kind of like, having that event. I see Blake and Petros like pull off to the side of the office and are just having this side chat at a desk. And then like come Monday, Deanna's like, hey, guess what? We're doing this project and it's due at the end of the week. and that's like the timeline as I heard, right? But I would love to know, like, from, Meg and Blake, like, how long was the idea of Fuglies brewing before that talk?
May 24th.
Wow. Okay, so there was actually a lot of lead time.
Yeah. So I mean, it was like the day after VCon we came back, and there was about a month between VCon and NYC NFT NYC, and in between there was consensus. And I mean, the project evolved a lot over the process, and like as we got closer, like by the time I was at consensus, all the art had already been done, and so we were and all the content had already been shot, and so we were in the process of editing the content and like structuring the story. And obviously hindsight's 2020, and I wish that I'd come to WRST a little earlier, just to get, if nothing else, to give you guys more time. But I think part of the reason that I hadn't is because I know that you guys are, such a like top caliber quality team that commands and deserves substantial budgets. And so we were really trying to kind of like bootstrap this and make this happen just kind of within our own means. And fortunately, and I'm very grateful that we were able to come to a deal and work with you guys where it wasn't like a big upfront financial cost, because we did invest a month of our lives and a decent amount of money into making it, and we were getting right near the finish line, and didn't have like a ton of just liquid resources just ready to spill wherever we needed it. So
if I could jump in,
that's
for
really
a question.
fascinating. Yeah, go ahead, Brendan.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, like as artists, how do you end up linking up with developers who can mint these sort of custom projects? And is it kind of tough to find people that you can trust and work with, or is there a pretty like robust like pipeline between artists and developers that you've sort of found, or any ways that could be better?
I mean, I think that like, oh, you go ahead.
Right, go on. Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I think that connection could always be better, right? Like, and that even stems from like in my recruiting days, was we have all these rad projects that are happening, but we don't really necessarily have like the safe haven to meet up with developers. And so, I mean, we got really lucky through Blake and his existing connections within the space. So yeah, I mean, I always say always, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2 years of working with different projects and different teams. You meet different people with engineering capabilities, and I think I could always meet more developers, and honestly, like more of almost everything. 3D animators, also like 2D animators. I love. I don't really have that in my wheelhouse, so I need to manifest some 2D animators for the Fugly. But yeah, it's definitely not easy. But I think that like being at things like VCon and Consensus and NFT NYC and NFT LA. And all the different conferences, Meg speaking at one next week in LA, those are like the perfect type of places to meet builders.
Absolutely. so, for this project in particular, there was a lot of serendipity that kind of came into place, right, with the conversation and then how the project kicked off. I'm really curious, and I know we're going to hear like some really different tales here on every side of the project. What were the anxieties that you all felt, like, especially as that last week came to bear, where you're kind of like having to like, lay your faith into this external team, right? And then Brendan, from your perspective, because if I remember correctly, I think this was like your first Ethereum specific project that you were bringing to market. So yeah, maybe you start with like Meg and Blake. I'd love to hear about like, that timeline of the week, and like, what was that ebb and flow of anxiety? What were the concerns that you had on your mind?
I wouldn't really say anxiety, because I think it was like a trust and surrender, and at that point, everyone was under the gun for tight deadlines, and it really was a full trust. You guys, WRST had to trust that we were bringing our A game on our art and just, everything else with it. And so yeah, I have a hard time saying anxiety. I really just, I don't know if it was just being sleep deprived at that point, but it was just like, we're doing this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we were at VCon, one of the magical things about it is we were already in the bear market, but nobody talked about it the whole time there. And so coming off the back of it and coming into Fugly, like, we weren't thinking about the market at all. We just were thinking about like having fun and building cool shit. So that was cool. But I mean, as it got closer over that month that we were working, like the market just continued to tank. And like, it just got like every single day pretty much was worse than before, with like Ethereum kept hitting new 52-week lows, and prices of projects across the board were, crashing, and people were trying to unload all their stuff. Projects were launching and not selling out. And so I think I definitely had probably more, concern or energy put towards like pricing than Meg, which is good, that she like kind of kept my head in the game. But I was very much in favor of doing a free mint, kind of in the style that Goblin Town had done, because that project launched while at VCon and had seen like a ton of success. And I do still think, like, had we gone that route, it would be interesting to see how that all played out. My main motivation to do that was just to ensure that like there was a relatively fast sellout, and that we could just let the market kind of dictate in the secondary what the demand was. And so I was in the camp of voting for a free mint, and ultimately outvoted by Meg and the WRST team, which turned out to be a great thing. But that was the one thing I think that kind of I got in my own head about. And part of that is because we did spend a month on it, and, had shelled out a decent amount of money. And, during that month that we were working on it, Meg and I also like set aside almost all of our other obligations and responsibilities, and just did the bare minimum we had. If we had like client commitments, we would just show up and we do what we promised. But it was like everything that we had, we were putting into the Fugly. So I was just very aware that like it had to work. Like I had to make it work, because there wasn't much else cooking intentionally, because I had like shelved everything else.
Yeah, you can totally tell by looking at the Fuglies too that these are pieces of art, every single one of them. I mean, you see a lot of PFPs and that kind of thing, and they're just kind of a couple pretty lines or whatever, but these are beautiful. So you can tell that you put that effort in, and that's why it's legitimately one of my favorite NFT projects I've ever seen, and I've seen a bunch of them. I think for me, I've done a lot of launches on Solana, and with varying degrees of success because of technical limitations in the blockchain. Coming to Ethereum, it's actually really nice because you can Google literally anything, and it's all really straightforward. ERC 721s and everything like that are totally just really well defined. Everything is really, really well defined. So there's always like little challenges and that kind of thing. And I've been doing software for about 10 or 15 years now. And there is always like the moment when you ship a piece of software and you're just like going through your mind of like, what didn't I do right? You know what I mean? And just like letting the existential dread kind of like come and like roost and, stare at you. But for the most part, developing on Ethereum's, it's a lot of fun, and there's a tons of great resources and that kind of thing. So it's a pretty straightforward experience, honestly. There's always little things that you run into that you got to work through, and maybe that'll get you worked up in the moment, but maintaining Zen is pretty important. So yeah, just with anything. Yeah
Right on. I think that if I were to kind of like rephrase Meg's answer a little bit, that idea of kind of like surrendering, it's also maybe also a little bit of like embracing the chaos, and just understanding that that's part of the creative process, and that happens on the technical side almost as much as it happens on the creative side.
Yeah.
I'd love to circle back. So I mentioned before I was going to circle back on performance art, and Blake, you beat me to the punch about talking about free mints and Goblin Town. I think that nowadays, like in this time of the recording, right, we're kind of like middle of July 2022. There is this idea of a free mint meta, and there are projects out there that are like, yeah, it's cost just gas, and you get to mint, and we're not going to set a price on these NFTs on the initial sale. And I think that Truth Labs, which is behind Goblin Town, Degen Labs, which does Back to Work, and then there's a new one out there called Pirates of ETH. They're all in this space of a lot of community engagement, but also a lot of performance art with their particular projects. Like they're like much more on that end of things rather than on the technical end of things, where prior NFT projects I think were exceptionally technical. And I'd love to hear about this. I think Meg, Blake, Ashley, you all would be great people to ask about, where do you see things going in this whole perspective? Because I do think that there's something there, this idea of like having almost a nominal or no charge, but having this focus on, for lack of a better term, the humanities aspect of this, field. So I would just put it out to whoever wants to jump on that first.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys first. Like, what do you think, Meg?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been watching the market, and in terms of like everyone throwing around utility, and I think the biggest piece for me, I'm a storyteller at heart. I love a good story. I love telling a good story. And it was the idea behind it was kind of like, well, what if we offer our utility up front? We entertain people for a week, and then at the end of it, hey, okay, like here's what you were watching for. And that for me, that was a really big incentive, and just I hadn't seen it before done that way. But I also, love the idea of like Film 3 and rolling into like, how are we entertaining each other, within that, and like, how do we define that? And so that was really a big, motive for why I think we kind of leaned into it.
No, I love that. No, go ahead, Blake.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I love that y'all did that, because it really did make your project a lot more engaging, I think. And like you were saying, I haven't ever seen another project do that. So I was like honestly invested. I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? Like, I think that storytelling was really great.
Thank you. I think kind of just speaking to like the utility and all the promises, big promises that a lot of these projects make, I think is like scared some people, or like just left like some sour experiences in people's minds about NFT in just like kind of ecosystem as a whole, because it seems more common than not to hear about a project rugging and running away with, millions of dollars than a project just doing the work and delivering what they say. And so that's kind of sad. And I think that the free mint angle paired with no roadmap, no utility, is good, because it doesn't put anyone in a bind where like they feel like they're not getting what they paid for. At the end of the day, you're not paying anything if you're minting. And if you're one of the people that jumps on the hype train and buys, all while it's on the way up, or maybe you buy the top and you lose money, well, it's more on you, I think, than on like a team that's over promising and under delivering. So we definitely wanted to be like on the other end of that, not promising. And in fact, we told people like there is no utility, there's no Discord, there's no roadmap. But in the month since launch, we've published our idea map and we're building out a bunch of different things, but also framed it in a way where we're trying not to like put ourselves in a box and lock ourselves into any particular direction. We're just sharing the ideas that we have with the community, open to like some feedback, and hopefully that will guide kind of where the roadmap ends up developing into. But
yeah, I love that idea from many different perspectives. Number one, no utility, no roadmap, art, like so refreshing, in like the NFT space. That's just like so refreshing. I think also, you were able to create like a performance art like experience, and I think like digital experiences are important, and that's what the metaverse world is sort of getting into. And especially like since NFTs are so niche, still it's cool to be able to like connect with the community and like be entertained and like have an experience, and that was like a big part of your project, and that's so refreshing and commendable, and I love that about your project. I did have one quick question about I want to print one out, but what's the best way you think, the best medium to have a physical version of one of these?
That you're muted. Well, I think no one's printed them out. We uploaded them at a ridiculously high DPI. But I don't know. On metal, on plastic. I don't know. I think just have fun with it. Let us know how it goes.
Yeah, you think metal would be cool?
Yeah, there's actually a website. I think it's actually printsonmetal.com, or actually no, it might be metalprints.com. Which I've ordered a handful of prints from, actually of some NFTs. And so those look great. That's like, it's printed on like an aluminum, and then they put like kind of a sheet of acrylic on top of it. So it has like it looks very glassy on the front. And you could probably do with the image that we have, like 20 by 20, and have it look really crispy. I think if you go bigger than that, you could. It just might be like a little bit fuzzy if you get in real close to it.
24 by 24 could be a solid.
Yeah. And like Meg said, like definitely, share that with us and hopefully on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna put it on like above my fireplace for a little while, like the potpourri and urns or something. Like a little shrine.
Yeah. Ugly altar. Yeah.
Yeah,
I also love that people instantly, because the other big piece of it was we didn't want to just number them. And so we hand created each individual name. So each one is completely unique. And so people started to make their own ENS, or turning their names into the ENS domains. So that was really fun. Wow. Ticked off.
I didn't even know your community is doing that. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
I love the names. They cracked me up when I looked through them.
No, they're
I just
hilarious.
wonder where you got them from.
All in the head.
I love it.
I wanted to leave a little bit of space during this whole dialogue to kind of like flip the script and like leave it to, both Meg and Blake. Were there any questions that you had for all of us? Because I feel like we've been the ones like leading you on the questions and like kind of, pushing you to these different answers and different kind of like foregone discussions. But I'd love to hear, any questions you all might have, either about the process, about the art, about crypto, wherever you want to take this.
Yeah, first and foremost, like I was wondering during all of this, I was like, man, what is their office vibe like? Are you guys all like stressed and just like wanted to nearly kill each other, or like was it fun? What was it like over there?
Brendan, you go ahead and take that one.
Yeah, all of the above. No, it was really good. I mean, we were all excited, really excited about working with you guys and working with and seeing the art and seeing the names and like writing the node script to like generate the names that were going to be a part of the metadata and filling out the metadata and that kind of stuff. It's fun when you're working on a project that like has dope people and dope ideas and like dope art, you know what I mean? And it just makes it so much more fun, because I was a physicist for about 10 or 15 years, and it's so funny that I like work in art now. And I love it because it's just like so interesting and so dynamic and so interactive. And like, even in times when it's like you're solving a technical problem and it's like really lame and hard, being able to lean back and like look at the broader picture of like the cool projects and the cool people that you're meeting with is just like awesome.
I have a question.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Question for you guys. Okay, so we gave you guys 1,778 pictures, and then we gave you 2,000 names on a spreadsheet, because we didn't know how many pictures there were like while we were editing them. We just waited till they were all done, and so we figured 2,000 names would be enough, and it was. So my question is there a way for you guys on the back end to tell us which 200 and change names or 300 and change names didn't get used? 200 and change, yeah, 220 something. There is.
Oh yeah, the short answer is yes. The longer answer is that Brendan's the one that's actually would be able to build the script and do it. Like, yeah, that's exactly his kind of specialty for sure.
Like those names.
Yeah, because like those ones took us just as long as the others to think of, and right now like we don't want to do anything with stuff on the list because we don't want to use something that's already been used. So that'd be really cool.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Got to write a couple queries and do some stuff, but we'll figure it out for you.
Cool. That'd be awesome. I guess another question: what was like the most challenging from a technical standpoint, as far as like executing this? Like, I don't think the contract was, it wasn't like out of the ordinary, but obviously there was a short time crunch. So, what was like the hardest thing to get done in that short time?
I think Brendan and I are both going to have different answers on this. So the answer on my side is, and this is like me kind of like pulling back the curtain a little bit. So the thing that I demoed to you all on the client call was something I made really quick. And it's just because I knew that there was a template in Hugo that was going to totally solve the problem like right out of the gate. And that was something I whipped together real fast. But like the problem is it didn't actually work nicely with Wallet Connect. And Wallet Connect was what's necessary for people to like connect their wallets and actually like mint, right? And so we ended up having to like rewrite that entire functionality in and using a totally different framework called Next.js. And that was all front end. That's like not crypto, but it's just we had to do this kind of like total rebuild of the website like within a 24, 48 hour period, just because it wasn't playing nicely with Wallet Connect. So that was like, from what I saw, that was one of those ones where I was just like, gulp. Like, are we going to be able to land this? I was totally kind of freaking out.
Which is funny because when you were demoing that, you're like, this super hard prompt.
Oh yeah, how are we going to?
You were totally like setting yourself up for that one.
Oh, I know. Oh my God, it was hilarious. But yeah, Brendan, how about you? What did you think was the big challenge?
I think you nailed it. It was just getting the mobile mint thing totally good to go, because some people just use MetaMask browser. Some people use like focus on desktop. Yeah, I think getting that into a framework that we're focused on like deploying more effectively and efficiently in the future. There was like some questions about like how to do that properly. But yeah, it got a little exciting for like a day or so before we could figure it out.
Was that like, how close was that to launch though?
I want to think it was like Wednesday. When like it was about Wednesday when I gave up the ghost, and I was like, I will never get Wallet Connect to work with Hugo inside of the time frame. And so then we're like, all right, we got to quickly rebuild this. Yeah.
Yeah, it was and then yeah, basically Thursday and Friday we were pretty much on calls the entire day and just, figuring stuff out. So a little exciting.
Thanks for pulling the curtain back, Alex.
No, but truth be told, it's like, you know, I think that the technical process and the creative process have this similarity where the outcome is non-deterministic, and you set off on it and you think you know the direction it's going to go, and something occurs along the way, and you end up at times with a radically different outcome than what you expected. I think that that's really nice. It actually reassures me from a philosophical point of view, helps me believe in free will and this kind of stuff.
The obstacle is the way.
Yeah, exactly. The obstacle is the way. But it's really this observation that, like, I think that's a shared similarity between our worlds, that, you know, not everything is like perfectly planned and perfectly executed. Sometimes you just kind of got to roll with it, and then, you know, just go with the next thing that comes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would have had, if there was more time, I think my biggest thing is that I wish that we had more Fuglies. Like, I you know, I really kept pushing. That was my biggest thing. I'm like, we just gotta paint. We gotta keep painting until, and literally, I mean, we were still, Blake may have photographed wet paint at one point. Like, I just really more is more. So that's my only.
Well, there's always time for a Gen 2, I would say.
It's more spoilers.
Did I almost get you? There's probably a spoiler in there. I'll just stop there.
You can definitely consult the ideas map though, but yeah, that's definitely on there, and you know, working with artists, the Fugly love artists, so there's a lot to come, I think.
Nice. I saw that Doodles did their spaceships during South by, right? So if Doodles can do spaceships, surely Fuglies have spaceships too. Everybody's so silent. I'm sorry. Am I just killing your?
I was muted. I said yeah.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah. I mean, I also think though, like, because Doodles did spaceships, we probably won't. Most of what we're trying to do is like stuff that isn't, to our knowledge, already being done.
Nice.
You know.
Yeah, and we never had to fly in a spaceship. We were all portaled in there. So yeah, and we keep talking about that. We didn't really fly. You know, we weren't in a saucer. we were in a portal.
Nice. Were there any other questions y'all had?
If I could jump in, yeah. What was one of your biggest like takeaways or learning experiences, or just like experiences that you're grateful from going through this process, or like learnings or experiences from going through this process?
You know, I think the coolest thing was Blake and I, we got a book reco from someone who recommended this amazing book called Who Not How. And we instantly listened to it. And I think we crammed all 4 hours. We just listened to the whole thing straightforward. And it really gave us the sense of, you know, we don't have to do everything. And so if there's something that is more so outside of our wheelhouse, to allow for a who. And that it just gained way for us to work with so many amazing people. And I think because this project was so just righteous and you know, out of the right, and people were just like, whoa, where did this come from? So many people wanted to clamor on. And because we held that open door for all these other creatives to jump in, it really made for a super awesome experience. So I think that was really my biggest takeaway.
Nice. We got time for just maybe like one last round of questions. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Blake. Please, you had an answer to this too. Sorry. Go ahead. What did? Yeah.
Echo that. Like, I definitely think like just trying to do so much in a short period of time forced us to like open up delegating stuff that we'd been doing ourselves in the past. And so, you know, having help with the website, we had kind of a story and lore writer that helped with, you know, just the kind of the framework of the story. We had an editor, we had a shooter / actor that got to do a little bit of each. And so there were a lot more pieces to the puzzle than just Meg and myself. And so that was really cool. And then the other thing that I think was a really cool, to me, like learning moment was just like the sheer volume of stuff that we painted was like more painting than I've done in any single month, and like really kind of pushing our own limits of like how much we can do, and if we like really just kind of set our mind to something. So that was also like pretty special. Like if you think about like cutting, you know, there's three sometimes 4 layers, and there's 57 characters that got launched. So that was like cutting, you know, hundreds of layers of stencils, plus, you know, painting fronts and backs of like damn near 40 sheets of plywood that are 4 feet by 8 feet each, plus like every other little thing in the studio. It was just like, it forced us to really ramp it up, as we said.
Really, really, really just ramp it up. Yep.
I love that. When I first saw you guys were doing physicals, I was blown away, and I was so impressed, and I loved it. Follow-up little question: Are you doing anything with those plywood sheets? Do you still have them?
Some of them are back here in the studio.
Nice.
I'm definitely muscle training here, shuffling them all around my studio. But yeah, we have plans for them. We want to get them to people. They're so stunning. They really are just gorgeous. I sound like I'm complaining that they're in my studio, but they're really all friends. Like we've created friends through this art. And so we want to get them in the hands of the collectors for sure.
Yeah. And before that also, which all of this is published if anyone wants to check out the idea map, which is linked on our Twitter, but we want to do a physical art show first in Los Angeles. We're in the process of manifesting a super dope venue for it. And once we have that locked in and we lock in a date, we'll make announcements. But we want to invite all the holders of the Fuglies to come basically first and have kind of a VIP access to seeing the work firsthand. And because the boards are all painted on both sides, we're going to have to kind of be creative. And I think we're going to like maybe hang them from the ceiling or something. And so you can walk on both sides of an artwork. And so that's going to be fun. And then as soon as that show is done, then like Meg said, we're very open to getting the physicals in the hands of the token holders. But it definitely, we're going to make it kind of a scavenger hunt and a bit of a game, because these pieces are painted on fronts and backs. Every alien pretty much that's painted on the front has a different alien on the back. And so someone would have to own both of them in order to be able to claim it. So there's going to be a little bit of a process where people are going to be hunting for specific ones because it's correlates to the one that they have in order to claim the physical.
I love it.
Nice. Ashley, I wanted to give you a chance. Any last questions you had for Meg and Blake?
I think one last quick question is just, do you think that your project, being that it was like actually physical art versus digital art in an NFT project, might open up more doors or like kind of change the space a little bit to focus more on the art aspect versus the utility aspect of things?
I hope so. I think that this really was a big case study, not only for ourselves, but going down in history. What is it, and is it important to have that? It's like touch on it. I think that there is a lot of emotion around digital art, but it's different than physical art. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I think, and it's something that we can always improve on, is I don't think that even everyone that holds Fuglies, I don't think that every single person that holds a token knows that there's a physical for every single one. There's some amount of kind of pile-on bandwagoning that happens when a project is, minting or starting to move, where people will jump into projects, myself included sometimes, just because I see that somebody else that I trust bought it. And I'm like, oh, all right, well, I don't want to miss this boat, so I'm going to grab one and sit on it for a while. And so that's part of, I think, our job now is really communicating to everyone in Web3 kind of what this project is about. I think because of when we launched it, right before NFT NYC, obviously there was like so much media and everything was surrounding NFT NYC specifically. And so it kind of got buried. Like we got a little bit of press through like a 1:37 p.m. Interview that we did. But I still think like by that happening, and then it was like 4th of July weekend and everyone was gone. Also, like everyone got COVID and NFT NYC. So like, it's kind of been this like, I don't know, just I guess inopportune time to like really kind of hit like the media circuit hard. And I'm excited to kind of start going in that direction and really sharing the project with more people. Because at the end of the day, you know, with a 2,000 piece collection, at any given time when I've looked, there's under 200 pieces listed by it now on OpenSea. So like maybe 150 pieces at a time with like a pretty, a great value for the floor. And so it really doesn't take that much where, you know, the right person tells, you know, their newsletter about this, or a video we do goes viral, or anything like that. I think as soon as there's even as little as like 200 more people that are aware of the project and they're all trying to kind of compete to get one, I think we could see the floor like jump up relatively quickly. Because if 100 come off the floor, that's going to bring the floor up like 10x or something, you know, something like that to what it is now. So that's also like super exciting just going forward, knowing that like, you know, super proud of where we've come so far, but there's so much room to like continue growing and bringing more people into the Fugly world. And we're going to do everything we can to make that happen.
And just as we're kind of like closing this up, I wanted to give, Meg and Blake both a chance. You were mentioning there about, the floor, and earlier you mentioned about engaging in Twitter. If you had like one ask for the outside community and folks who are watching this video later, what would you like for them to do?
I guess.
I was going to say watch the videos. I don't know. What do you think, man?
Speak highly of the Fugly. I mean, that's carrying out what the Fugly's message really is. Yeah. Collective consciousness. I think, that's kind of what kept coming to mind too, is like really elevating and really, really realizing too that like we are in our infant stages within the blockchain, and like, just really, clamoring on and trusting that this is going to be something a lot more, not dipping out. I think that's a lot of what I've seen is that the bear market, everyone's like, nah, well, flip the table, NFTs are bullshit. And it's like, that's not fair. And so, yeah, I think the message would be too, to like hold tight. Like this is just the beginning.
Excellent.
Have you guys showed your Twitter and all that stuff yet?
Yeah. I mean, we post about it on Twitter. I think everyone that's paying attention to either Meg or myself on Twitter now has like at least some awareness that the project exists. I would like to get more of those people to like actually go down the rabbit hole and watch all the videos. And if that inspires them to buy one on OpenSea, then that's great.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, we'll definitely try and make sure that the link to your Twitters as well as the video series are all kind of linked in this particular video as we put it out there. I think we can make that effort at least. Yeah, for sure. With that, I got to say that we're kind of hit the end of our time. I know there's a lot of people that have a hard stop here at 3. So Blake, Meg, Brandon, Ashley, thank you all for being here and being a part of this podcast. I really appreciate it. The time went by in a blink of an eye for me. This really felt like the fastest hour ever. So, really thank you again. I think we'd love to have all y'all back and to do some more podcasts in the future as well.
Absolutely. You guys are a good group of people. I like you. Good vibes.
Y'all are a great group of people. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.